Melanie, hi. Welcome to the Move Me Brightly podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Blaine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so
Glad to
excited
be
to
here.
have you on.
Likewise.
I love your work, and I know that you are going to have a lot of exciting things to share with us. So, if you wouldn't mind, could you just do like a quick elevator pitch of who you are, just so our listeners who are not familiar with you know?
Oh my goodness. I'm the American dream. I say that because my family immigrated from the UK when I was a child on the Queen Mary, ended up in Florida. My uncle was a engineer with Westinghouse, so everyone ended up there. And I grew up in a very artistic environment with music being played and poetry being spoken and antiquing with my parents and always knew I was going to be an artist. And lo and behold, I drove to Atlanta when I was 17 and went to university and got majored in interior design and did commercial design when I came out of school. And it was great because there was a budget and you knew what you had to do, but it was too much in your lane. It wasn't creative enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried doing residential. I was still in my 20s and it was really hard because, first of all, you don't have what I call that flow of people of where do you get business? Like it's either got to be from a church or a synagogue or a school or a country club. Like if you don't have that, you're not going to get business. And if you don't have the projects to work on it, you're not going to get published. And I just got frustrated with just dealing with small projects and just not enjoying it. So I stopped doing that. I became a single mom and I went into pharmaceutical sales for 5 years, which was great because I worked in corporate America and understood that business and how that works. So that added to my being. And then I met my husband, Stan, who is a developer and very well educated and fell in love right away. And we had a baby together and a family. And I started doing interiors for him. He would say to me, how do you know this stuff? Like I drive by and I was like, oh, those dormers are too big. And he's like, how do you know this? And I was like, well, I went to school for design. He's like, why aren't you doing it? I was like, two words, direct deposit. So, the arts are the arts. So I started doing work for his houses, and I always say for sex, for jewelry, or for free. I don't know which one it is anymore, but anyway, so I started doing work for him. He gave me this amazing canvas that I was always lacking, and I was able to raise a family and just work for him. Well, of course, then the real estate bottom fell out in 08, 09, and 010, and I was not going to go down with the ship. So on a dare, he asked me to do an award, which was Southeast Designer of the Year. And so I did a project, which was our own house, which was for sale as well. And I did it, and it won Southeast Designer of the Year. And everyone knew me as my married name, which my husband's name is Stan Benecki. So Benecki was my name. And nobody knew who I was because my maiden name is Turner and everyone knew me as Melanie Benecki. In fact, somebody walked up and was like, who's this Melanie Turner? And I'm like, that's me. So I won this award, but there was no money in the magazine business. There was no money in advertising. Nobody did anything. So I had this award. And at the same time, I made the cover of Veranda magazine. So I had this big award, a cover of Veranda, and I didn't have one client. So it was backwards for most people. So that was also interesting because everyone expects you to be this big designer. And, needless to say, I didn't have the clients. And my attitude was there's only one way to go, and that's up because I was starting at the bottom. So that was 13 years ago. So that's basically, we've won 3 Southeast Designer of the Years to date. We had a book that came out in during COVID, during 2020, which is with Rizzoli, which is a bestseller, which has been great. And I have 9 designers. And I think there's 13 of us total. And we work all over the country and love it.
I cannot believe it's only been 13 years.
I know. Isn't that
That
crazy?
it is like your name now seems so iconic. Like you say it, an image comes in people's mind, people know who you are. Your just your look is so well known. And to go from starting 13 years ago to where you are now is really unbelievable. Like if you had asked me, I'd be like 20, 25 years.
No, I look at, but no.
No, I don't, of course, don't mean it like that. I just mean that's how long I would think it would take to build a business like yours.
Yeah. I did have an attitude like just keep your head down and just work hard and it'll all work itself out. And that
Mm-hmm.
also takes me into the vision boards because I'm a true believer in the vision board. Like I had a vision board with the veranda of the cover. I had hundreds of photographs and I decided to cut the header, which at the time I didn't realize that magazines had different color headers. So I grabbed a veranda. It was a bright green. I grabbed a dining room and I put that together and put it on vision board. I had nothing but a computer, a folding table, and one board, and I put that photograph up there. And when we found out that we were in veranda and we pulled the magazine out because they would send it to you at that time, it wasn't done digitally. You opened it up, and that was the exact cover that I had on my vision board. So that was a moment of just goosebumps and how did this happen? And it's amazing. So I'm a true believer after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was your process? So you win this award, you get this magazine cover, but you don't have a client. What was the process to get that started, to get your first client, then your second, and then your fifth?
Right. Well, I think everyone starts with friends and family. That's just how you do it. You know, it may start out being free, but for the most part, I had a friend who had a lake house that she wanted freshening up. So I went and worked on that for her. And and then from there, it became somebody else. And then it was just a slow process.
So it was more organic word of mouth.
It was organic and word of mouth. And I went around to architect firms, but for the most part, and real estate agents, for the most part, it was just word of mouth and just doing small. The one thing that I think was huge in the creative process for me was that I made sure that I photographed every project. And I started doing that because my husband had all these houses that he was trying to sell. I had no other real reason for doing this except for the fact that I needed his houses to sell. So I furnished them and photographed them and then sent the photographs to magazines. And of course, most people didn't realize at the time, but the magazine didn't have money for photographers and copy and all that. So they were glad to get that. So it was kind of like a win-win. It was the silver lining that built my business and gave me, some type of notoriety because they didn't have projects. We needed to sell houses. And so that's what happened.
Yeah.
So it was just serendipity.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot in my career. It's worked very much the same way where you do one project and then hopefully you do a good enough job where someone recommends you to the next person and then it just starts to snowball from there. I think the caveat of that, as opposed to starting at a firm or something like that, is you have to be exceptional at what you do because you are relying on the people who you've already worked for to not only say like, oh, I know a person, but I know a person, they're great. Right. They'll do a great job for you.
Exactly.
I think it can make, I don't know if you experience this as well, but I know for me, it can make for a very rewarding business relationship with your clients because you get to know them intimately and it becomes almost like more of a familial, friendly work environment than a strictly business relationship because you're not hiring a nameless or a faceless firm to work on your project. They're hiring you and your personality and your vision to execute for them.
Absolutely. But I also think that a lot of times people get stuck working on the project they're working on and you can't go forward and get new projects and you're having to work and close off a project behind you. It's kind of like this, you're jumping back and forth 3 different times, 3 different places. And what I found was I knew I could get the business. I needed to make sure I could take care of the business. So I kind of did it backwards as well. Is I was hiring people. My husband kept saying, why are you hiring so many people? And I was like, I'm hiring them to train them so that in the next 3 years, I know that the business is going to be coming in and I need everyone to be on the same page and how we work and all of our systems, which a lot of businesses never end up doing. So I worked really well, like a lot behind the scenes, making sure that the systems were there to handle the creativeness.
Yeah. How quickly did that happen for you from when you started to when you started hiring employees and other designers to work for you? And was there a period kind of in between that where it was basically you as a one person operation? And did that conflict with your schedule and the amount of jobs you were getting? Like, was there a period where you had to say no to people?
No, I never say no. Remember, I'm the immigrant. I've just learned to say no recently. My husband has taught me that sometimes the people you say no to, actually, there's a rule that I have. So there are three things you look for in a client. You look for it's a creative project, you like them, or they have money. I only need 2 out of 3. So they could have money and it's creative and I don't like them. I could like them and it's creative and they have no money, but I need 2 out of 3. And that's the rule that I go by. So
That's so funny. That's such a theme of this podcast. I feel we've had a lot of musicians on, and a thing with musicians is either the pay is good, the music is good, or the hang is good. Like you get to hang with your friends, and you got to have 2 out of 3, but 3 out of 3 is perfect.
Right. That's the dream job. And they come along, they do come along, but they're a little rarer, but yeah. So, but I would say that for the most part, I felt like I had a stride at like 5 years. I started out, I always had one person. I had a rental at the beach. And again, this was 08, 09. And I was like, well, they're taking a percentage of the rental. If I hire somebody straight out of school, that money can pay for their salary. And then I could handle the rental. So that's kind of like how I figured out because that first person scares you paying a salary. Mm-hmm. And so I did that with the first person. And then it became, okay, I need somebody right away. So I would say at year 3 is when I started hiring like 2, 3, 4 people. And then at 5, and then I don't know, we moved into a new space. And then we ended up moving into another larger space right before COVID. So in 2019, we moved into a bigger space. So yeah. And the book changed things. That was the next like nice thing. Mm-hmm. So it's like baby steps that all add up.
How much did meeting Stan, and I mean, I don't exactly know how to ask this question, but I feel like his style is also so iconic, and he is like so sure of his style. But did that sort of like, I would think living next to somebody like that would be very inspiring, and you could even feed off of each other more. Like,
yeah, he raised the bar in Atlanta, as far as I'm concerned, on what to expect for what the amount of money people spend on beautiful custom homes. So he did that. I learned so much from him, and likewise from me, because I remember one of the first projects I walked in and I was like, why is your trim a different color than the walls? Let's paint it all the same color. And he says, I spent all this money on the trim. And I said, well, do I wear all my jewelry at one time? Like, it's a slow graduation. And his whole part of the design, it's the sum of the whole. So it's little things, it's the hinges, it's the doorknobs, and it all adds up. And mine is bringing a masculine and feminine style to the house so that both feel comfortable in it, but nobody realizes why. Mm-hmm. So we both brought so much, and it got to a point, though, I have to tell you, where it was exhausting. Like, it was exhausting. Like, I finally had to say, we're not allowed to talk about business at dinner. Like, we're done. Like, because I'm such a creative and coming up with this stuff all day. And he's like, it's so much fun. Why can't we keep talking about it? And I was like, I can't. So that was more the burnout, and I stopped doing that. So that was fine.
I think that's a really good boundary to have too, yeah. Because you also don't want to shift what your relationship means to that person.
Exactly.
Where the priority becomes work instead of being a partner.
Right. Yeah. Whereas him, he's glad to see me and he wants to discuss all this stuff. And I'm like, nope, make an appointment during the day. So that's what he does. It sounds strange, but it works.
How much are you guys working together now?
We always have a project going on. There's always one. if not two. Like I did the show house for him last year at the beach, did that whole house. That was a lot of fun. But there's always like a smart client will hire the two of us because
Right.
it's a dream team. It's just so smooth that they don't even realize how easy it is or how it should be easy, because so many people have difficulties in the building process, not realizing that there's managing and that there's systems and there's a good craftspeople that you have. There's so many elements. It amazes me how smart our clients are in making money, and how everyone just assumes because you can make money, you know how to build a house. The good ones get out of the way and let people do what they need to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
When it comes to the book, I want to go back to the book for a second.
Yeah.
What's the name of the book, by the way?
Inviting Interiors.
Inviting Interiors. Okay, we'll add a link to it in the show notes for people to check it out if they want.
There you
Isn't
go.
it so pretty?
That is very pretty. I love the artwork
Thank you.
there as well.
It's
Yeah.
America Martin.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We should link
So
to
that-
her in the show notes. Her work is
Yeah, she's
amazing.
great. Just had a baby. So it's crazy because the cover of the book, we were all good to go. Luckily, all our photographs, the layout had been done, but the writing hadn't been done. So that's what was done in 2020, and the cover. And everyone had told me the cover is the hardest thing to do. And I'm like, no way, no way. Oh my gosh. If you think about it, one cover has to reflect so many different styles and designs that I can do any period of a room, and to have it all in one is difficult. So anyway, when we were photographing the house, which is in Atlanta, it's on Andrews, I knew that was going to be like there was two, that one and the one that made the cover of Veranda with the staircase, which is also in the book. Anyway, so New York looks at it. They choose the room that's on the cover, but I didn't like the art because the client, who's one of my favorite people, they're just lovely, lovely, lovely people. Their house is just filled with so much love. And she had her sister's art, which was a pretty piece of art, but it was too small for the space. But, it was her family piece. So we put it in there. Excuse me. So I was like, I got to get a different piece of art. This is June of 2020. Nobody is doing photo shoots. New York is totally closed down. Rizzoli's closed down. They're not even in their building. And I'm like, you got to give me 1 week. I'm going to get a new shot. And they thought I was crazy. I'm like, well, just ask somebody in Atlanta, in the South, to get something done. New York has no idea how we operate. So I borrowed the piece of art from two galleries that represents America Martin and hung it in there. And it was Father's Day weekend. And I went and got the homeowner and I said, I think you're going to have to buy yourself a Father's Day gift. And he walked in and he saw it and he said, I guess I'm buying myself a Father's Day. So they bought the piece. But it's really funny. Now you're going to look at the cover because I placed the flowers so you wouldn't see her bottom, because I didn't know if that would insult somebody. So I was very conscious of, who's going to be looking at it. But it's a fun cover because the client had family that had passed and she wanted a lot of family heirlooms used in the project.
Awesome. And you're so right what you're saying about the cover and how important that is. Because I think speaking specifically for you, for anyone who's not in the world of interior design, who's not a fan or hasn't worked with you, that book, which has gone national, you said it's a bestseller, that's going to be their impression of you going forward. Like that's going to be the image that clicks in their mind. And I know working in the film world, that's one of my biggest pet peeves right now is poster design in filmmaking, because it used to be a great art form. And now it's moved into just like a collection of decapitated heads floating around an image of like the 5 stars in a movie with some green screen background.
Yeah.
And there's no style to it or recognition of what the actual project is about. And I think personally, in terms of my field, that is such an area that has been lost and deemed.
Why do you think?
I think it's just a cost-saving thing. I also think studios have moved towards star vehicles for promotion. So in the past, when you would see, like the old illustrated Star Wars posters or something, and it was a big collage of the different characters and stuff like that, but Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill weren't necessarily prominently featured in there. They were more part of a collective. I think now when you have something like a Leonardo DiCaprio vehicle, they're just going to say, we want Leo's head as big as possible. Make him take up 70% of the poster, because that's our selling point, not the actual story within the movie. I think it's moved that way. And I also think it's also just a cost cutting measure, because they're quick to put together. You don't have to hire an actual artist to take 6 to 8 weeks to craft something. But I think it is personally, I mean, I have a poster right there behind me. I think stuff like that has kind of gone the way of the dodo, unfortunately. And it is a real bummer, because to me, that is the first image that's associated in your mind when you think about a work or about an artist or about a project.
I totally, totally agree with you. I love watching the old movies, and I love looking at all the posters and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I went back to reading books instead of reading online or, digitally, because I couldn't remember the title of the book because I wasn't placing it down and seeing it for a week.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what I read. I have no idea. So yeah, the brain will remember a photograph and a poster long after.
And just the tactility of it too, of having a physical book and flipping through the pages versus reading on a Kindle. I know personally this is a sidetrack, but I do both. I do Kindle and hard copies of books. I feel like I read faster on the Kindle because you can just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But I so much prefer reading a real physical copy of a book, because like the page, the font style, that
was always one of my things. Like, as a child, or even as a young adult, I would say to myself, I would see someone on the beach and they would have a hard copy book, and I think they are rich. They have a hard copy book. It's not a paperback, and it's not from the library, which was where all my books were from. And so to me, one of my greatest loves is to be able to go into a small bookstore and support them and buy books and have a stack next to my bed and just read them. So
absolutely, it's the best. I will go to a bookstore and buy a book knowing nothing about it.
Yep.
Because I like the color and the texture of the pages.
Yeah.
Like if it has like the kind of like the frimpy edges that are uneven, almost like a journal type stuff. There's a term for that. Yeah. But I will totally just buy a book because I like that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's fun. And then I'll give it a shot. Whereas if I was just on the Kindle shopping, I would never go for that title.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is one way of, we talk about creative burnout. That is one way that I truly feel like escaping through books and an adventure in your mind, because your mind can do so much more than anything else, is one of ways of me not being burnout, for sure, is to escape into somebody else's life.
Since you so eloquently brought up the topic of burnout, you mentioned reading as a hobby. What else do you do? Has there ever been a period, I would say, especially in the last 13 years when your business really started? Have you ever had to do anything like take significant time off, travel, go away, shut down for a little bit? What is that process of burnout? Because obviously managing your own company on top of being an artist is an entirely other ballgame of time load and time management. You're not just a freelance painter or something like that, or a freelance producer like I am. Like, you're running a business, you have employees that you have to worry about too. Right. So what does that look like for you when you get to that point where you kind of feel yourself running up against the wall?
It used to be that I would go to the beach because I love the beach and the solitude of the beach. But then my projects, because I love the beach so much, I started working a lot there. So then that was not an escape. I don't know. I tend to really not take myself too seriously, or what we do too seriously. I feel like we are the home is a business, and if it runs really well, it makes your life easier, and you'll be able to spend more time with your family and loved ones. So that's really the goal, and to surround yourself with beautiful, creative pieces that make you sing. Like, that's really what it comes down to. So it's not, I always say it's not brain surgery. So we do the best we can. Mistakes can happen in any business. We fix it. I don't let it bother me. I don't know if it's an age thing. Things just don't bother me like that. I'm not a perfectionist. I would never want to be a perfectionist. Anybody who says they are, I feel sorry for them. Like, I have no desire. There's no such thing as perfection. Why would I want that? So I don't have that high anxiety that a lot of people could possibly have in this industry. I do love to travel, and I do love exploring other houses and how people lived. I just went to England on a buying trip with other designers that are friends, and we went, and it was really, really cool because you realize you're with your tribe and you speak the same language, and you're never bored with each other. It's just like I was in my rain boots and in the middle of a fair, as they call them, which are antique markets, at 5 in the morning, eating what's a toasty, which is like grilled bread between either bacon or cheese, with a cup of tea, with a small mist, going, I am in my happy place. This is amazing. And just finding really cool pieces and looking at the piece for a long time and saying, okay, who do I have? Who do I know? Who wants this? It's like me trying to find homes for strays, basically. So that is a great, even though I'm being creative, even though I'm doing design and I'm with other designers, it's like it feeds me in so many ways. So that is a huge, and I've done came back from Oaxaca, Mexico, where they make crafts because we're doing work there, and we like to work with the locals and find beautiful rugs and pottery and that kind of thing. So that's really, really fulfilling at this time in my life. It's, to be able to find craftspeople, support them, find one of a kind pieces for our clients. It's just really rewarding. I can't imagine doing anything else. So I don't feel burnout. I don't think everybody can have it all. So when I was younger, I would segment like family time, office time. I am a huge believer, because I came from commercial design, in making sure that my office is not burnout. We do not work weekends. We do not work after hours. If they are, I'm not a good manager in their time, and making sure that the client's being taken care of and they're being taken care of. And we do things like Icelandic Fridays. So in the summer, everybody works Monday through Thursday, longer hours, not work on Fridays. Fridays we leave early. Let me think, what else do we do? There's a couple of things that we do at work. Oh, we work from home on Wednesdays, so everybody can get caught up on their emails, etc., or place orders. So I try to make it a really good environment that everybody wants to come to. When my office has small children, they get paid maternity leave, and then they come back and they start an hour later and leave an hour earlier, so that it doesn't break them because they're going home to a second job. So we just, in the end, it's all about just enjoying the creative process, being with people, working with people you love, having people at home you love, and just making your life easy and not trying to stress it out is what I try to do.
Yeah. So in terms of burnout, it sounds more like you just set a hard line in terms of what your boundaries are and aren't.
Thank you for wording it. That's exactly right.
And are able to manage your time accordingly to make
Yeah.
sure you don't hit that wall.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem from the clients. The clients, we do things on time, we get stuff done. There's never, if somebody's calling us for something, I don't ever remember them. That's ever not keeping up with deadlines, because the whole business is deadlines.
I also think too, there is kind of a weird, it's almost like a reverse psychology thing sometimes, where I think if you are a person that sets such strict boundaries around work, it can actually come off as more appealing to a potential client, as opposed to somebody who says, they'll be available for you 24/7, because there is a double-edged sword in that of like, okay, great, I know they're available if I need them, but you also want somebody who knows what it takes for them to get a job done. And I also think from a client's perspective, I can speak to this as well for myself, you don't want to be bending over backwards for a person to the point where they start to be concerned about you as well, just from a human perspective. Right. I think if you were up at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, responding to emails or making phone calls to some country across the ocean to get this last minute thing in for a client, that wouldn't work well for either of you. I think they want to know in advance, generally speaking, what your guidelines are, what your restrictions are, what you are and are not willing to do. And then having that parameter to work around, as opposed to an open-ended thing of I can do this whenever, whatever you need, I think can also be really helpful, not just for you, of course, but for the person you're working for.
I agree. But Tom, it's really interesting. I don't even have those conversations with the clients because they're never waiting for something. So they're not like, where is this? Why isn't it's none of that? Like the work gets done. And I tell you, just for creatives out there, which really helped me, we have what's called a war room. And it's a huge erasable calendar, but it's just done in line form. And we do it by year. And I start out, because a lot of times we work in new construction, of when they think the house is going to be finished. So I put install, and then I count how many months that the orders have to be placed. And it's like ordering furniture, and how many months before that for the presentation. So we work backwards to get to where we are. So, and I can go in there, a lot of people have spreadsheets, all this, but because we're visual people, I can walk in and I have three teams of three. So there's a senior designer, junior designer, and a design assistant, and then there's myself on three different teams. And I can look and see where everyone is, because if you're at different phases during the design process, nobody's going to get burnt out, and see who can handle and who can't. So that has been major change, because I don't feel like, oh my God, we got to get that done.
Yeah.
Because you can look at it and say, no, your house isn't being built for 3 years. We're okay. We're good.
Yeah.
That calms everything.
You mentioned being a visual person. So I just want to go back to it because I know Blaine in particular is really interested in it. Yeah. You talked briefly when you were starting about your vision board stuff. How much does that still play a role for you now that your business has grown and you have a team of people underneath you and you're working on many more projects, probably bigger projects than when you started out? Do you still implement vision boards in your day-to-day life? And does it go beyond work?
It does go beyond work. It actually happened with the house that I live in, which is a story in itself. But so it's really interesting with vision boards. I definitely think that they work. And I definitely think that if you think it, you believe it, you picture it, and you just constantly in your mind thinking it, the brain will start telling you what you need to do. How do you get there? And there's like little baby steps. And then all of a sudden you turn around and you're there. But to answer your question, I don't use it on a daily basis like I used to. If anything, I'm more fearful of it now because I know it works. So it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for, because the situations that have happened, which have been great and have worked, the timing may not be what you think it is. And then you get this pressure and this stress of like wanting something. So besides asking for world peace, I'm really kind of careful on what I ask for now. I walk around and my mantra now is, I have everything I need. And if you think that way, you could be somebody who's homeless. If you have everything you need in your head, then that's it. You don't need more than what you think you need. So that's kind of how I've been living my life. The vision board is great in getting you there, especially for goals, and being able to write them down, like writing them down and then doing a poster of them is very important. So now you're going to make me want to go do one, because I haven't done one.
Well, not if the vision board is turned into like a monkey's paw thing for you. Then I don't want you to.
No. It's all good. It's like, it's almost like I now wish for things for my children and my grandchildren and for all those things. And I do have a couple other goals that I would like to obtain in my career. But for the most part, I guess I'm so busy living it, which is a nice feeling to finally get to. It takes a lifetime. That's what people don't tell you. It takes a lifetime to be able to be okay and be grounded and realize that it's all good.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we're in the creative business, because when I have dinner parties at my house, I go around the table, and these are very successful people in their fields. And the men always say, I was like, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? They either say a farmer or an artist, every single one of them.
It's wild.
Don't they say by a certain age, one person will say you're not an artist, and so you think you're not an artist? Like, it's something silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an old saying that says something like, every child is an artist. It's just a matter of remembering it when they grow up.
That's it.
because every kid grows up drawing or playing imaginary or whatever. We all have that instinct, and I think it's and you spoke on this earlier, and I'll go back to another story I had with a director on a project I was working on, and we were running really behind the schedule we had planned. We couldn't afford to go into overtime, so we had a lot of catching up to do over the course of the next 2 days. We ended up catching up. Everything worked out. The director was totally chill, cool, relaxed the entire time. And when we were wrapping out at the end of production, I pulled her aside and said, "Hey, I just wanted to say I really appreciate the way you handled everything. I've been with directors who get really stressed and start to snap, and it kind of just bleeds down from you. Like, I'm the producer, I'm also a leader on set, but you're the creative leader. So if you're not having a good time, it's going to affect, like, a trickle down effect. And I really appreciated that you didn't do that. I thought you handled everything perfectly." And she just kind of laughed, and she's like, "We're not curing cancer here. Like,
Hey,
we're
that's
we're
my
here to make a
point.
movie. It's all good, you know." And so I think there is something about that where you want to, it is important. And I think for everyone grows up artistic, and I think it is an important thing to hold on to as much as you can, whether or not you go into a career for the arts. I think to have that outlet is really important for people. But I think the most important thing, whether it is a career or a hobby or whatever, is to remember that it is supposed to be something fun. Because when you were a child being artistic, you were doing it solely because it was fun. That's why you did it. You weren't doing it to try to get rich or to try to, like, jam down other people's throats what your idea of art was.
Right.
You were doing it because you enjoyed to do it. And I
Yeah.
think it's such an important thing to remember for everybody, whether you're making millions of dollars off of it, whether it's your hobby after your day job, whatever it is. Like, it should be fun. It's not the be all end all of the world. We're not heart surgeons. We're artists trying to make the world, like, a more colorful, happier place.
I think it's important for everybody to remember how lucky we are to be doing anything in the arts. And today I was looking at some of the most beautiful fabrics I've ever seen. And I stopped and I looked at them and I said to myself, aren't you the lucky girl to be able to see such beauty? And I stopped in my tracks and said this to myself because they were exquisite. I mean, beyond. And so that, just to be able to look at that for 5 minutes is just great.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and to be able to then take that and create a room for a client who's going to enjoy it forever and ever. I got off the phone this afternoon with one of my clients. I hadn't spoken to her in a couple of years, did her beach project 10 years ago. And she was saying how much she loves it and how beautiful it is. And it doesn't need freshening up. And I will never sell that house. And I was like, well, and she's like, nope, it's in my name. I'm never selling the house. It was hysterical listening to her, but it makes me feel so good that people are enjoying what we've created.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I mean, you enjoy it as you're doing it, as I'm sure that both of you do. But then to even get somebody else that you've done it for enjoying it, that's just like icing on the cake.
Yeah, the appreciation or the satisfaction is kind of everything at the end of the day, because you're going to do what you do regardless.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure even if you didn't have a business and you were just in your bedroom at night, you would be sketching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rooms,
my new thing now is that I'm trying to learn, like, not to give unsolicited opinions, because as you get older, you tend to do that. But I am also really trying to help other designers and be like, oh, you can do this and save the time and the creativeness so that you can take more projects on. Like, a good example is I started looking at our office and how it's run. And we go to school for 4 to 5 years to become designers, and to sit in front of a computer placing orders all day is not necessarily a happy person. Like, they're not going to stay there forever doing that kind of job. And you tend to, like, hire people out of school and then they do it and they kind of move up the ranks. And I just started observing it. And I was like, this is just taking so much time and it's not a creative process. Like, how can we do this? And I decided to set up a purchasing order department that just does all of our purchasing. So now that the designers, we can take on more projects and be more creative and not have to do that part of it. Yeah. So there's all kinds of tricks that I've learned along the way that enable us to be more creative to be less stressful, and to build a business?
I'm going to take this opportunity because I'm speaking to such an elite interior designer. I want to show you the wall of my office.
Well, I can see the wall. It's got a sticker on it.
There's another wall you'll see.
Okay.
So I bought this condo last year. This wallpaper came with the room.
Okay.
And a lot of people, it's kind of 50-50 right now. I would say half the people who see it think it's absolutely atrocious. The other half think it's fun. But I want to
so excited.
I want to show it to you really quickly. Hold on one second. Okay. So this is the other side. This is the wall that I look at in my office.
Oh, I think it's cool.
You like it?
Yeah. I think it's very cool.
Blaine?
I think I like it. I have recently gone to a place called Great Wolf Lodge a couple of times, which is an indoor water park.
Oh, no, you did not.
And
you saw that there.
They have these like suites that you can go, and it's all fake wood, and they do have some wallpaper like that. And it's fun. Would I want it in my house? I don't know. Yours is a step up.
I think for me, I've kept it obviously for the past year because my dream is to eventually live in like a cabin in the woods. That's kind of if I were to make a vision board, that's what it would be. Would be a cabin.
So you're looking at it every day.
I'm looking at it every day. Yeah.
I love that. That is your vision. Because I was going to say you could take it to the next level and you could put like birdhouses on it, or you could do some animals in there. Like some wackos.
I think like maybe a little bit of snowfall or something.
A snowball.
I live in LA, so at Christmas time it's so sad because it's not cold, like 75 degrees.
You could just put a little snow machine right there in the corner.
That's hysterical. Just put some skis leaned against the trees for the winter skates.
Yeah.
Well, then officially we can say you approve.
Let me see your walls and your trim next to it. Because I would paint the room a darker. I would paint the room that would work with the.
So that's the wall.
Yeah.
And then the other wall just has a mirror, like a closet mirror.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird to me.
Why don't you take the green that's in the trees and paint the walls green?
Yeah.
I'm into this.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I like that. Even back here?
Yeah.
All around?
Yeah. Okay. Lean into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make yourself absolutely. Cabin in the woods.
Yeah. Send me your billing info.
Free of charge.
Thank you so much. Well, it was 2 of the 3, right? It was creative and good people.
I like you, and it's creative.
Yeah.
No money, but those are the 2. Yeah.
Right. Well, love that. Thank you for your input. I've been getting a lot of conflicting feedback on that. So I
just love the fact that if I were you, I would like put a sign up there and name your cabin and look at the name and the trees every day and be like, done. That's me.
I mean, that is like a giant.
Where do you want it to be?
I always love Vermont. I love Vermont. For some reason, the state of Montana has been in my mind.
We do a lot of work in Montana.
Yeah.
I love Montana. Yeah.
I've never even been there. It's just been in my head that I'll
eventually like the sound of it.
It's just the best.
I'm just going to manifest it like Montana, Wyoming, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been watching A River Runs Through It recently?
Not recently.
That's because
I have been watching that movie.
That's because of Brad's butt in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I queued that up for the kids recently and really had a nice little night for myself watching it. That movie really stands the test of time.
It does. It's a great movie.
Yeah. Well, Melanie, thank you. This has been amazing.
My pleasure. Hopefully I've talked somebody off the anxiety creative tree.
I mean, I'm feeling less anxious. We were having before you even got on here, I'm feeling very anxious when we were talking through it. So I'm feeling much calmer.
Yeah. Good. It's all about creating beauty and surrounding yourself with love. And that's all it is. Well, thank you for including me in this. I really appreciate it. It's nice. I feel calm and relaxed now too.
Good,
It's
good.
all
It
good.
was
And
so great to meet you.
thank you, Tom. I want an invite to the cabin.
100%.
Okay. It'll
100%.
happen. It'll happen
You'll
because I
you'll
love
des-
Vermont.
Yeah, you'll design it for me.
Absolutely.
Great. I
Cool.
love it.
In Montana.
Yeah, Montana,
She's
Vermont,
already
all those,
there.
they're all good. They're all good.
That sounds great.
All right, guys. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a nice
Thank
night.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.